The year was 1947. I remember the day he came to us. The prison bus groaned to a halt, its doors sighing open like a tired old man. Out stepped a line of fresh fish, blinking in the harsh sunlight, their faces a mix of fear and confusion. Among them was Andy Dufresne. He was a banker, they said, looked out of place, like a bird that had fallen from its nest. Stiff, tall, and pale, he walked with a quiet dignity that didn't belong inside these gray walls. We all made our bets that first night, as was our tradition. I bet he'd be the first to break. I lost that bet. Shawshank prison wasn't a place for the faint of heart. It was a world built of stone, steel, and routine. The walls were high, the guards were tough, and time moved differently here. It crawled. Each day was a copy of the one before, a slow, grinding process designed to wear you down to nothing. Hope was a dangerous thing inside Shawshank, a flickering candle in a hurricane. Most of us had long since let that candle go out. It was easier that way. But Andy, he was different. He carried something with him, something unseen that the walls couldn't touch. My name is Ellis Redding, but my friends call me Red. I'm the guy who can get things for you. Cigarettes, candy, whatever you need. I'd been inside for 20 years when Andy arrived. I'd seen men come and go, seen them broken and defeated. I thought I knew how this place worked, how it chewed people up and spat them out. When Andy first approached me, he wanted a rock hammer. A strange request for a man in prison. He said he was a geology hobbyist. I figured he'd use it to try and dig his way out, a fool's errand that would get him killed. I told him it would take a man 600 years to tunnel out of here with one of those. He just smiled. Andy's first few years were the hardest. He was a target for the sisters. They cornered him, beat him, and tried to break his spirit. Yet he fought back in his own quiet way. He never cried out, never gave them the satisfaction. He would take the beatings, spend time in the infirmary, and then walk back into the yard with his head held high. It was a strange kind of resilience. He was proving to himself and to us that there was still a man inside the prison uniform. 2 years passed. Then came the day on the roof. The warden had us tarring the license plate factory roof in the hot sun. It was brutal work. Andy overheard the captain of the guards, Byron Hadley, complaining about taxes on an inheritance. Andy, the banker, saw his chance. He risked everything, walking over to one of the meanest guards in Shawshank. He told Hadley how he could legally keep all the money. For a moment, we all thought Hadley was going to throw him right off that roof. The tension was so thick you could taste it. But Andy's knowledge was his power. He wasn't just another con, he was a valuable asset. In exchange for his financial advice, all he asked for was 3 beers apiece for his coworkers. And just like that, for a brief moment, we weren't prisoners anymore. We were free men sitting on that roof in the sun, drinking cold beer, feeling the sun on our faces. We were the lords of all creation. Andy didn't even drink his beer. He just sat there with a small smile watching us enjoy that taste of normalcy. He did it just to feel normal again, if only for a little while. That was the day I started to understand him. That single act changed things for Andy. He began doing their taxes, setting up trust funds for their kids, laundering money for the corrupt warden. He got his own cell and a cushy job in the prison library, away from the hard labor and the sisters. It was a deal with the devil in a way. But Andy was playing a long game. He used his new position not just for his own comfort, but for something much bigger. The prison library was Andy's real project. It was just a small room filled with old, discarded books when he took over. But Andy saw potential. He began writing letters, 1 letter a week, every week to the state senate. For years, he wrote. Most of us thought he was crazy. The state would never care about convicts wanting to read books. But Andy just kept writing. His persistence was steady as the seasons outside our walls. After 6 long years, something incredible happened. The state sent a check for $200. A donation of used books, a donation of records. It was a pittance, but to Andy it was a victory. He had made them listen. Sorting through the donated records, he found a copy of Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. He locked the guard's office door and played it over the prison PA system. For a few glorious minutes, the music soared over the prison yard. Every man stopped. We all looked up at the sky, as if the notes could lift us over the walls. Like a beautiful bird flew into our drab cage and made us free. The music spoke of something we'd almost forgotten: beauty, joy, a world beyond the gray stone. It reminded us there were things they couldn't lock up, things that lived inside you. Of course, Andy paid for it. 2 weeks in solitary. When he came out, he said it was the easiest time he'd ever had. When I asked why, he said he had Mozart in his head. That's the thing about music. They can't take that from you. He taught us a lesson without trying. He showed us that even in the darkest places you could find light. You just had to know where to look. He told me about hope, the best of things, and that no good thing ever dies. It was hard for a man like me to hear. But watching Andy, I started to believe it was possible. One of Andy's most dedicated students was a young inmate named Tommy Williams. Tommy was a petty thief, full of life, but on a path to nowhere. During one of their sessions, Tommy told a story about a former cellmate who used to brag about killing a pro golfer and his lover, and how the police had pinned it on the woman's banker husband. That banker husband was Andy Dufresne. After nearly 2 decades, proof of his innocence had just walked into Shawshank. He took the information to Warden Norton, believing the man he had made rich would help him get a new trial. He was wrong. The warden was terrified of losing his money-laundering accountant. He couldn't risk Andy walking free and telling the world about the corruption at Shawshank. Norton had Tommy silenced permanently, and when Andy protested, he was thrown into solitary confinement for 2 months. The warden told him to let go of his hope. When Andy came out of solitary, he was a different man. That night was the longest night. The guards called his name for the morning count, but there was no answer. They kicked open his cell door, expecting the worst. But the cell was empty. The warden looked at the poster of Raquel Welch on the wall. In a fit of anger, he threw one of Andy's rocks at it. The rock didn't bounce off. It went right through the poster. The warden tore the poster away, and there it was. A tunnel. A dark, perfectly carved hole leading out of the cell. It took my breath away. For 19 years, Andy had been chipping away at that wall with his little rock hammer, the one I got for him all those years ago. He worked only at night, hiding the dust in his pockets, scattering it in the yard during his walks. The posters weren't just for decoration. They were his cover. That night, during a thunderstorm, he crawled through 500 yards of raw sewage in the prison's main drainage pipe. He emerged in a creek on the other side of the prison walls, a free man. The next morning, he walked into banks, using the identity he had created, and withdrew all of Norton's dirty money. Then, he mailed evidence of the corruption to a newspaper. By the time police arrived, the warden had taken his own life. Andy had won. I got paroled the following year. After 40 years inside, the world outside was a terrifying place. It moved too fast. I was an old man, bagging groceries, living in a small room, feeling lost, feeling scared, like Brooks. Every day I thought about breaking my parole. I could go back to the only home I'd ever known. I was institutionalized. Then I remembered my promise to Andy. I remembered his talk of hope. That hope kept me from giving up. It was dangerous, but it was all I had left. So I took a bus to Buxton. I found the hayfield he told me about, the long rock wall, a piece of volcanic glass. My heart pounded as I dug underneath it. There, a small metal box. Inside, a wad of cash and a letter. It was from Andy. He wrote, "Remember that hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things. No good thing ever dies." He said he was in Zihuatanejo. He could use a good man, a little hotel on the beach. He invited me to join him. He reminded me, get busy living or get busy dying. I broke my parole right then and there. I left a note, gone to find my friend. I crossed the border into Mexico, a free man making a choice for the first time in decades. The journey was long. With every mile, the gray of Shawshank faded. I felt the warmth of the sun. I was choosing life, choosing a future. And then I saw it. The Pacific, as blue and vast as Andy had dreamed. In the distance, a man sanding an old boat. He looked up. His face broke into a wide smile. It was Andy. After all those years, pain and struggle, we were together again. We had made it. We had held on to hope. It had carried us to freedom.